So instead of buckling down and figuring out a proper trade deal between Canada and America, Mark Carney is making his rounds on the West Coast, where Vancouver apparently is having their Pride Parade, and Mark Carney made an appearance. He actually had his RCMP officers completely kick out independent media because they were asking him, some tough questions that mainstream media won't do. It's just weird. Mark Carney also, there's photos circulating. I can't show it on YouTube, but there were photos circulating on X yesterday where Mark Carney was taking photos with like half naked dudes, like their butt cheeks just hanging out, which is crazy because that is more Justin Trudeau than Justin Trudeau ever was. Like, he always loved going to pride parades, but never took it to that step. So yeah, there's a lot to take a look at in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're on route to 500,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. It'd be pretty sweet if you got there sooner than later. And without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with this video footage of a man who was walking his dog in Russia who captured the moment the tsunami actually hit the shore, which is wild. Just goes to show you how powerful the ocean really is. Here it comes. You can see he's pretty well elevated. And then the water level just insanely rises. Look at that. If you got caught in that, the ocean would suck you back out, and chances of living are very, very thin. Woo! That's insane. So when people say, hey, you should be evacuating like what happened in Hawaii, you should probably freaking do it. And then we got to take a look here at Donald Trump, who had this to say about Sydney Sweeney, who's extremely popular for her recent American Eagle ad.
Actress Sydney Sweeney came out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
You gotta freaking love that guy, man. That's so funny. If she's a registered Republican. Well, now we got to take a look at what's not so funny. Tariffs. Yeah, we had a funny moment, but now it's not so funny.
On Friday, we spoke with Mr. Trump's trade representative, Ambassador Jameson Greer, and we asked him whether he thought there was any chance those rates would be negotiated down in the coming days.
I don't think they will be in the coming days. I think a lot of these, well, I know a lot of these are set rates pursuant to deals. Some of these deals are announced, some are not. Others depend on the level of the trade deficit or surplus we may have with the country. So these tariff rates are pretty much set.
You said at some point the president's view is maybe a tariff is better than a deal. Are you saying there are countries that they have no shot of avoiding a tariff?
Most countries in the world, they just have a tariff assigned to them, right? Whether it's
it'll be the 10% or 15%.
10 or 15 or the higher level tariff. Because again, when the president is looking at this, he looks at potential deals, and we bring him potential concessions from countries and the things they might want to do, and he compares that to the potential tariff that might be applied to try to get that deficit down. And then talking to his advisors, he makes a call on this. And sometimes a country will come back and make additional concessions that make it more appropriate. He's trying to get at the deficit.
So there you go. We may very well just have a permanent tariff on us, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. Now, of course, there are ways around it, right? Being the 51st state, which is probably not going to be as popular of an idea right now. I feel like Canada has to hit a little bit more rock bottom for that, for that talking point to be like, oh yeah, okay, time to save us. But in the meantime, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Would be a good solution to the tariffs. What can Canada offer America without being the 51st state that would, get the tariffs completely wiped off of us as a country. Let me know when you guys think. Now we got to take a look at Mark Carney's appearance at Pride in Vancouver, which, looking at the calendar, I thought that was in June. Isn't it July? Like, what's going on?
The Prime Minister was in Vancouver today, joining many others for the city's Pride Parade. More than 100,000 people lined the streets of Vancouver. Security was ramped up for this year's festival to ensure participants felt safe. Prime Minister Carney walked part of the parade route, stopping to shake hands and chat with people along the way.
So unfortunately, it wasn't just that simple. Mark Carney's appearance at Pride did get a little bit heated when some people, independent media or reporters, tried to ask him some questions.
Mr. Carney, sir, are you aware that Tavistock Gender Clinic, where you sent your daughter, is being sued by 1,000 families?
Completely ignores them. And then you can see here his security is like trying to intimidate the guy with the camera who's asking the questions.
Kind of are, actually.
Oh, you're getting in my way right now.
Yeah,
I'm like all the other rest of the press here.
No problem.
So am I. I'm being very respectful. I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, but we can see the one.
Do that and follow directions. That'd be great. Thank you, sir.
There you go. I mean, just complete abuse of power. Mark Carney can't even handle getting a few questions asked of him at a Pride Parade at a public event, and has to sick his RCMP dogs on people, independent media. It's just freaking weird. The guy is just so sneaky at avoiding the cameras and avoiding questions like Justin Trudeau did. I don't think we're ever really going to get any answers out of these people. But Mark Carney's itinerary continues out west as he visits British Columbia. He's expected to continue on Monday in Nanaimo area, which is pretty freaking wild. The Prime Minister met with BC Premier David Eby on Sunday, as well as officials from Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. Carney and Eby discussed U.S. tariffs and renewed animosity in the long-running softwood lumber dispute that was closed to media. After meetings, Carney had a surprise appearance at Vancouver's Pride Parade, marching for about a kilometer along route beginning outside BC Place Stadium. Okay, so it's interesting that he's out west meeting with David Eby because like he's trying to get this pipeline from East Coast to West Coast, which would have to come through British Columbia. And David Eby has told to Premier Danielle Smith to her face, we're just not really ready to sign a deal on this pipeline because we don't know the cost, we don't know the implications, blah, blah, blah. So you got David Eby who's trying to block these major projects would be amazing for Canada, right? Like David Eby is so quick to jump at the opportunity of ripping American liquor off the shelves and announcing his public support for a boycott against American goods, yet can't even come together with other premiers to have a pipeline built through our province. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And he's not the only premier to do that. Wab Kinew out of Manitoba is also in the same boat, which is crazy because they are both NDP. It's just like NDP keeps ruining this country, and so do the Liberals. Oh my freaking goodness. But the good news or bad news doesn't just end there. Canadians apparently in the masses support Palestine recognition even amid rising U.S. trade tensions, which I find this hard to believe because I don't think many people actually really care about this. A new Angus Reid Institute survey reveals that a majority of Canadians support recognizing Palestine as a state, even if it complicates negotiations with the U.S. Again, that on its own doesn't make sense. Who's doing these polls and which retards are being interviewed for this? You had liberals, these old shriveled up raisin bran liberals going, we gotta fight against America with our elbows up and hopefully our dentures don't fall out. And now they're willing to sabotage the relationship with America to recognize a place that they've never been before, couldn't point to a map, and if I'm not mistaken, never existed. I don't care. I'm impartial to Palestine being yay or nay. I truly don't give a shit. But our priority shouldn't be Palestine. It should be America. What the hell are we doing about this trade deal? And to go out and say without real evidence to back up the fact that most Canadians recognize Palestine, nobody gives a shit. We've got millions of homeless people out in the streets. You can't even go downtown in your major cities without the fear of being stabbed or somehow getting secondhand cross-contamination of fentanyl and overdosing because you don't have Narcan immediately like ready there to fucking save you. This is insane what's going on in this country. But yeah, the majority of Canadians truly want Palestine to be a place. Nobody gives a shit. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to speak on behalf of everybody. Unless I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but nobody gives a shit about that. Really, we have so many other things going on in this country. And then we're going to take a look at some of the things that should be a priority. Zero urgency, said Mark Nixon. No urgency from the Liberals to get a trade deal with America, evident by the complete collapse in trade negotiations. They'll continue to gaslight Canadians, saying the fire is contained, but without any water bombers, the blaze will surely explode.
Leaving Washington without a new agreement last week. Dominic LeBlanc making that statement today on a U.S. talk show. President Trump has said the increased tariffs are due to the flow of fentanyl, but as CTV's Colton Prale reports, a top American trade official is offering a different reason.
Donald Trump says fentanyl trafficking is the reason goods leaving this port for the United States now face a 35% tariff. But according to his trade ambassador, that's not the only reason.
Canada retaliated. The only other country in the world who retaliated on tariffs was the Chinese.
Canada's counter tariffs were announced under Justin Trudeau and target $60 billion of American goods, including steel and aluminum. Mark Carney hasn't increased them, but he also isn't dropping them.
The national security interest of Canada requires that we have a viable steel and aluminum sector.
Trump has threatened to increase tariffs if Canada retaliates again. Carney said he was ready to bring in more counter tariffs August 1st if there was no deal, but didn't do so.
There's the political elbows up view on this, and then there's the practical view, and these tariffs are effectively taxes being paid by Canadians.
Today, the Prime Minister reiterating counter tariffs aren't his focus.
Building in a Canadian way, building sustainably, building together, building positively, and that's what we're going to do. And yeah,
he's commenting on trade negotiations, which is the most serious thing right now to Canada, happening in Canada. It's affecting the most amount of people. He's commenting on that at a freaking Pride Parade. This is unbelievable. I don't know what kind of sick, bizarre portal we've fallen into for this to be our reality, but this just shows that we're not a serious country. The leader of our country is at a gay parade where there's half naked men walking around at what's supposed to be probably child friendly areas, and he's commenting on the freaking on the trade war with America. It's shit. I don't know if I'm overlooking this I don't know if I'm looking into this too much, but this is just weird. It's getting weird now with Canada.
yes, we'll come to something with the Americans, something constructive with the Americans.
But with multiple deadlines to get a deal done now come and gone, some are questioning just how far off an agreement really is.
I would describe it as no man's land in terms of figuring out how we get these negotiations to some sort of a mutually beneficial conclusion.
A recent report from the Royal Bank of Canada says Trump's increased 35% tariffs are not expected to significantly alter Canada's economic outlook. Dominic LeBlanc.
It's so funny. Like, Trump is known for going to UFC events. Trump will go to UFC events and he'll, hang out with Dana White, a bunch of massive American, figureheads in their respective niches and celebrities and stuff like that. And our prime ministers go to Pride Parade, and they just, like Trudeau always smiled ear to ear, more so than when he was on his date with Katy Perry going to a Pride Parade. And same with Mark Carney. And also, where's Mark Carney's wife? Like, I understand he's got kids. We never see them. I don't really care about that. But where the hell is his wife? Where is Mark Carney? Like, isn't it weird that we've never really seen her with him other than when he was doing his weird hoodie elbows up dance when he won the election? Like, just disappeared. It's freaking bizarre. But hey, at least our ministers are saying, like LeBlanc is saying, that we're going to have a day, or in the next couple of days, we're going to have a deal coming. That's the consensus. I don't believe it, but that's what they're saying. We're encouraged by the conversations with Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Greer, but we're not yet where we need to get for the deal that's in the best interest of the two economies, LeBlanc said. We think there's an option of striking a deal that will bring down some of these tariffs, provide greater certainty to investments, LeBlanc said. So they seem to think that a trade deal is right around the corner. But let's hear LeBlanc say it in long form.
Canada's top trade negotiator with the U.S. says Donald Trump and Mark Carney will likely talk over the next number of days. Dominic LeBlanc says he remains confident that negotiations to reach that trade deal will continue. But this comes after the U.S. imposed a 35% tariff on Canadian goods not covered under CUSMA. Minister LeBlanc appeared earlier in the day on U.S. television laying out his position.
We're going to continue to do the work. We left always with a better understanding of the American concerns in the trading relationship. Ambassador Greer, Secretary Lutnick engaged with us in constructive, cordial conversations. So we're prepared to stick around and do the work needed.
But the Canadian side may face some challenges, given that U.S. officials appear to be giving mixed messages and mixed signals on the state of the tariffs as well as the trade negotiations. Journalist Tony Waterman brings us more details from Washington.
Yeah, it was all a bit muddled from the top White House officials. The U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer saying on CBS's Face the Nation that he doesn't think that these newly announced tariff rates with any country will be coming down, that these tariffs rates are in essence set. He didn't say Canada specifically, but assuming that would also stretch to our northern neighbor. But the White House Director of National Economic of the White House National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, saying on a separate program on NBC's Meet the Press that he expects talks to continue with countries still negotiating a deal with the U.S. Take a listen.
I think a lot of these, well, I know a lot of these are set rates pursuant to deals. Some of these deals are announced, some are not. Others depend on the level of the trade deficit or surplus we may have with the country. So these tariff rates are pretty much set.
For the deals that aren't ready yet, they're going to get the reciprocal rates, soon, and then we would expect that there might continue to be negotiations with those countries.
So both of these gentlemen talking about the same thing here, but with a very nuanced and very important difference. And that difference is whether any of these countries can still hold out hope that they can continue to negotiate with the United States. And it's all the more confusing because the Trump administration is treating everything as a quote unquote deal, even when the tariff rate is unilaterally forced, when the other side does not agree to the so-called deal. Whether or not this is a negotiating ploy by the White House, we just don't know at this point. Trump, of course, likes to fancy himself as a superb deal maker, so perhaps this is part of the game, but ultimately it will be Donald Trump himself who is going to decide when these tariffs kick in and what the tariff rate is going to be.
We know that on Friday, the markets were not handling the news of the tariffs that well. What do you anticipate is going to happen when the markets open on Monday?
Yeah, you're right. If the end of last week is anything to go by, then we should expect to see a lot of red in the markets.
Nope. No, I mean, Canadian markets are closed on Monday, holiday, but nope. Lots of green, lots of green. The entire U.S. stock market is pumping right now. Everybody is happy with it. Oh my freaking goodness! Here, I don't have it pulled up on my screen, but you can see right there on my phone. Green, green, green. That's all the index funds. I mean, everybody in America is just insanely freaking happy right now. America's bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars with tariffs. And like, yes, it sucks because it's sabotaging the greatest trade deal that's ever existed. I mean, so much money from Canada flows into America and vice versa. We've been, good trading partners, but things are changing now. We got to pay the rent to be in the biggest shopping mall. I get that piece. And it would be a little bit easier for Canada if we were willing to work with America and give them some things that, we wouldn't otherwise want to give them, like a little bit more integration into our economy, have American banks coming into Canada, having American phone providers, cellular providers, internet providers coming into Canada, having joint military bases, things like that, right? Like, why not integrate our economies a little bit more? That would probably help solve a lot of these things.
this coming week. All of the major indices in the U.S. slipped on Friday, the first time that we had seen such drastic drop-offs in months, as it became clear that these tariffs are on their way and as the president started rolling out higher than expected rates on certain countries. So Canada, for example, this 35% tariff on goods that are not covered by the trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada kicking in on Friday. The initial rate had been 25%. But up until this point, markets had been very strong in the United States. And that was because investors really didn't believe that Trump would follow through with these tariffs, the so-called.
Yeah, and markets are still extremely strong today, stronger than they were on Friday. I mean, it's wild to hear the copium from Canadian analysts, Canadian reporters going, oh my goodness, oh, what are they doing? They're going to hurt the American economy. Don't they know that tariffs on Canada is going to hurt Americans, their own people? Like, who cares? They obviously don't give a shit. America's making hundreds of billions of dollars a month. They're in a surplus doing what they're doing. What's Canada doing? In a bigger deficit. We're spending more. And liberals are fine with doing things that actually hurt our trade relationships so that we actually get less in the long run. It's wild beyond belief. But there is some hope because some analyst, singular out there, seems to think that maybe Mark Carney's approach to Palestine is the wrong thing. Maybe Canada shouldn't be dealing with Palestinian stuff right now. We should focus on trade deals. Let's have a look.
So how do you interpret Canada's move? Is this a principled stand or a strategic effort to pressure Israel over Gaza?
The Prime Minister portrays this as something that is meant to help the peace process, that is going to help the people in Gaza and the West Bank. And this may be his intention, but the results might be very, very different, unfortunately, because it is sadly unlikely to benefit the Palestinian people or the Israelis. This is a very complex situation that is not easily amenable to some political slogan or to some easy solution. And when the Prime Minister states that he is going to recognize a Palestinian state in September, predicated, and he emphasized this is predicated on a commitment from the Palestinian Authority to free elections, to a demilitarized state, and so on, that, in a sense, makes this quest not only questionable, but it also raises certain red flags as to the sincerity of the effort, because these are not real conditions. This is just a promissory note that he uses as something that would justify this early kind of recognition, which doesn't really fulfill the criteria of the Montevideo Convention on the Recognition of States, the four major criteria, and it's doubtful that any of them are met. And ultimately, we have to ask.
It's not even genuine. He's trying to stick it to Israel to put pressure on a ceasefire. And that's why he's saying that Canada is going to commit to recognizing Palestine as its own state. If Israel complies and stops firing missiles and completely goes with a ceasefire, then Canada and the UK and France will not recognize Palestine as a state. That's like a weird manipulative leverage thing to do. Like, hey, we're going to recognize what you're doing so long as these guys stop. If they stop, you don't have that recognition. Like, it's just weird. It's not even genuine.
Is this going to save lives? Is this going to make the situation better? Is this going to move towards a settlement? Who are the people or the organizations that appear to benefit most? And at the moment, more than likely, Hamas is the one that is applauding the loudest. They are likely to become more unwilling to reach kind of settlement, to demilitarize, to vacate the governorship, if you may call that, of Gaza. Let us not forget that Hamas has been designated as a terrorist organization by almost every major democratic state. And they have also declared that whatever the settlement is, Gaza cannot have a role. Well, this may well strengthen Hamas.
Okay, so you don't believe this would benefit the Palestinian people in any way?
the intention perhaps maybe to benefit the Palestinian people, but if Hamas is more unwilling to release the hostages, to reach a ceasefire agreement, and this is the indication, that it's hard to see how this will benefit the people who are suffering both in Gaza and in Israel. And this is why, if you look at, let's see what the British are saying, their proposal to recognize gives Israel certain incentives to do more in the delivery of food aid and the delivery.
What I do know about that situation is that it is extremely complex and very messy, and Canada's involvement has so far been over involvement. I don't see personally the need for Canada to be this overly involved in those affairs. Canada has a lot of stuff going on. We have literally zombies that have plagued Vancouver. I mean, the entirety of the downtown core of Vancouver is plagued by people that are overdosing and reliant on fentanyl, which they're getting free from our Canadian government. And that's just one major city. It's happening in all major cities and in small communities where you never thought stuff like that would be happening. And that's just one of the many issues taking place here in Canada. So I want to pass the question off to you. Is Canada so good that we can now start focusing on issues like Palestine, or should we be focusing more on stuff happening here in Canada?